Alright, so I want to make a second video, and it's the same concept I had before, other than I have a much smaller capacitor. I can't really see it, but yeah, it's I have a whole bunch of them right here. Right here. This is what they are. 400 volt, 220 microfarad capacitor. This is just a bunch together, but this is just one singular one, obviously. And I have the button just stuck on, and this is about its running voltage, 187, and that's its speed. Now if I unplug it, now it's just running on the capacitor. Ever so gently. So now I'll kind of stop it. I'll show you the power as soon as it gets triggered. That's a dead short. And for how small the storage of that capacitor, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. And like I showed in the last video, these between the two coils, they're in parallel, so it's dropping the resistance by half. But yeah, between the two, there is 80 kilo ohms of resistance, and if you were to put a resistor to drop it down to that, it would never turn this thing, because there just I tried it, it wouldn't work. But now, because it's all coil, it still has a field, and it still has some strength to it, even at that voltage down there. That's pretty low, and it still has some strength. So impressive, ain't it? That it can even run with 80 kilo ohms of resistance. At one time, I didn't really have a YouTube channel going at the time, but I had 6 of these, all in series, I believe. And then I had it to this, and I think it ran like 6 hours on this capacitor when I had it charged to max at 250. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Alright, now I'll put this back on there so it charges the capacitor back up. Come on. And this battery is getting pretty bad. Yeah, this is whatever I had laying around. It still works. But my thought is I wanted to build a motor that runs purely on voltage mostly, rather than current. I want to build a voltage driven motor, so like kind of like an electrostatic motor, but yet still using copper coils, so you get a magnetic field still, because you can still generate power but yet have the motor. I kind of think the only problem with making a motor like this is driving it. It's because if you use sensitive electronics, they can't handle like super high voltages. I mean, you could power this thing up to about maybe 1,000 volts. I think that's the limitations on. I think on transistors is about 1,000, 1,200, maybe 2,000. That could easily be very well done, but even if I were to do this, RPM is very slow at 180 volts. So even if I had it at, what would that be? Like 4 times this voltage, it would be 4 times the speed. That still isn't very fast. Even at 2,000 volts, it's still not going to be very fast. And if I add more coils, it actually slows it down more, because it's just more there to, with the impedance and with the inductance and the coils, the back EMF. If I can cancel that, that would help too, but even still. But I think if you could drive a motor purely on voltage, it would be way more efficient than a motor running on current. Kind of like a MOSFET. Between a MOSFET and a BJT, well, what one's more efficient? The MOSFET, because it runs on voltage, not current. So for my example, a motor that runs on voltage rather than current should be more efficient, just like the concept of between the transistors, right? So that's my theory. It's just very hard to drive it and very hard to wrap the coils because I didn't wrap these, I bought them this way from Temco Industrial, but they no longer sell magnet wire apparently. But I do have 12, but I couldn't use the other remaining 12 because of the fact that they got messed up in shipping. So I have 6 coils that are usable. I may do all sets of 3 to make 6 coils as a pair. But before I did it, I had them all in series, which had extremely high resistance, but yet it still ran. Somehow or another, it still ran. I think one coil has 160 ohms of resistance then. So if I had all of those in series, 160 times 6, that would be almost 1 mega ohm, right? Yeah. Wow, that would be insane. And it still ran. So yeah, I might work on that. See what I come up with on that one. But it's kind of cool. I'm gonna stop this and let it charge up a little bit more. Might take a little bit. Also, the drawback to this design is the reed switch. If you get it to too high voltage, they start arcing and then it destroys them. So that's why if you could use some kind of solid state transistor, but even those, I don't know if they can handle more than 2000 volts. That's a tricky thing with this. I think I have some that can handle 1000. I might try that. Alright, we're getting this is able to do 450 volts. So I'll cut it at 300. We'll see what kind of output there is. It's definitely not bad. The timing is kind of poor right now because of the way the triggering is with this. It doesn't really trigger perfectly. There's two magnets that don't trigger perfect, which sucks. But there is some torque to it. It's not like it's a small amount or anything. I'm putting a fair amount of friction on there. And it's still able to run it. I'll turn it off. Now we're just running on the capacitors. Or the capacitor. Tell me, make a motor run on that small of a capacitance and still have torque. It's crazy. Just imagine if you could actually power, let's say, like a little tiny car off of like a little capacitor bank like that. I could see it working, honestly. You just have to get the voltage high enough. All it is voltage. You don't care about the current. It's voltage. It needs to have a little current. It doesn't need much. As you can see, the higher the resistance, the higher the voltage the motor needs to run at, the more efficient the motor gets. It's still running on that capacitor. And there's still some torque behind it. So basically, I went from that to extremely fine. So high current, inefficient, very extreme low current, very efficient. I got a lot of them. Figures my camera went funny. There it goes. I think I might put a diode in between the lines so there's no like reverse charging or whatever you want to call it, or so it's not directly linked to the capacitor, so there's like a break between it. I noticed when you do that it usually increases the speed of the rotor, so we'll see what that does too next. Alright, that'll be in the next video. I'll see you later.